So, it's lockdown 2.0 here in the UK. This is the first time I've got my sailing kit on for a few weeks. So I thought I'd do something useful, and I thought I'd make a video on hiking pants. So over the summer, I found my trusty Gul hiking pants were unfortunately developing a rather large hole in a rather awkward area. So apologies to anyone who was sailing behind me over the summer.
I decided to ask a Facebook group which hikers they thought I should replace them with. This gave me a good idea of the pros and cons of each.
But I still didn't really have any idea of which I should go for.
So unlike a normal person, I didn't just decide to get a replacement set of hikers, I decided to get several. So I thought I'd create a video comparing them, so hopefully this is maybe the only unbiased hikers review out there of a decent range. So we've got obviously the Gul ones, some Magic Marine ones, some Magic Marine strap-on pads, another set of Magic Marine ones which strap on externally. I thought I'd bring my dad's Gill Hikers in as well, and I think, well, and how can I forget the ones I'm wearing? Sandiline ones, these are supposed to be top of the range. But yeah, we'll go into all of that, look at all these hikers in this video, so stay tuned. So what makes a good set of hikers? So hikers, contrary to many people's beliefs, aren't just to make it more comfortable when you're sitting out, but they also raise your bum out of the water, which gives you a significant speed advantage. So you actually want as long a pads as you can sail with, but obviously you don't want too long because that can get uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to having long pads. So comfort wise, you want to be looking at good knee pads for when you're kneeling down, and also when you're crouching down, you want this material here not to bunch up and feel uncomfortable. You also want some good less stretchy neoprene here to give you a bit more back support. You want your hikers to last a long time, you want them to be affordable, and you want them to be easy to set up. So I found with the hikers which don't have the sewn-in pads, you have to buy separate pads and put them in. I found that can be quite awkward getting them in the right place, and maybe someone's mastered a way of doing it, but it took me quite a while. So let's start with the Sandilines. These are the most expensive of any I've got here, and they certainly are very comfortable. They come highly recommended. One of the Finn sailors on the British sailing team recommended them, and I believe a lot of the Finn sailors use them. They use, I think, 6 different types of neoprene on them, including a fin type here, so when you bend your leg, it doesn't all bunch up and it feels really comfortable as if you're not wearing anything at all. My one gripe is these knee pads. It feels like a plaster on here and someone's not ripping it off, but they're just slowly pulling at it whenever you bend the knee. So I guess that's because it's quite a grippy material on the inside and it's just gripping onto my hairs whenever they move. So that's something to be mindful of, although of all the people I talked to, none of them mentioned that. What they did mention is that the sizing is something to look out for. At least one person mentioned to me that they came up a bit thin, a bit smaller than he expected, and someone else mentioned they came up a bit too big. Personally, I think these are comfortably sized for me, but I wouldn't like them any thinner. They are on the tight side. Another thing to mention is the pads are sewn in. So you have to worry about fitting pads in yourself and getting that right. The other side to that is if you want to go with longer pads, and these aren't the longest, they're probably the shortest of any here, you're going to have to buy new hikers. So that's something to consider. So are they worth the price tag? No. They are very comfortable except the knees, but they're not so comfortable to justify their price tag. So let me go and get changed and I'll get on a pair of the Gul Hikers. So these are the Gul Hikers. So what I like about these is they got a long pad and you don't have to put it in. It's already sewn in here. And it's personal preference, but I like having the longer pads. They haven't got so much knee padding, but I don't find that a problem, and I do a fair amount of kneeling. When I bend my leg, I don't find it gets uncomfortable under the knee. I can bend it as far as I want to and it's fine. So my only gripe with these is the big hole in the back. No, I'm not going to turn around and show you. So these are the Roosters. Before I say anything, I probably should say that these are about 10 years older than the rest. I had these before my Gul Hikers, and they may have come on a lot since then, but I thought it worth including them as it is. I actually got rid of them because, like the Gul Hikers, they got a hole above the hiking pads, but they're still pretty functional, and I would argue that's one of the advantages of the Rooster. They seem to last a long time. The padding on the knee is nothing special, but it will probably do a fine job. I didn't have too many problems with it. Overall, they're pretty comfortable and I'd say pretty fairly priced. So these are the Magic Marines. I find these are the nicest when I bend my knee. I don't feel it's like a plaster trying to be pulled gently off. It's just more comfortable, less sticky, this material around here. The other side to that is actually below the knee, it's slightly less comfortable, and that's probably because of these long hiking pads I put in. So unlike the others before, the hiking pads in these are removable. So because I like long pads, I bought the longest out there and tried to put them in what is I think a small size hiker. So that might have been a problem on my part. These took ages to get somewhat close to comfortable. They were either too far forward and I put them back in and they were too far back. But eventually I seem to have got there, although there is still, it does slightly dig in a little bit when I bend all the way. But I quite like these. I would probably downsize on the pad potentially. I have heard from others that they don't last so long as other brands, but I quite like them. Alright, so these are the Gills. They got quite a bit of wear on the knee here, a few scratches here, and some wear here. Fair enough, they are not the newest, but I would probably expect them to last a bit longer than this, and I think some of these rips get any worse, you might want to get rid of them. So these have got pads that you put in yourself. You can choose the length, which is nice, but much like the Magic Marines you saw before, it can be quite awkward to fit them in. When you bend the knee, it's very comfortable under and on top as well. They're very like the Magic Marines, and perhaps that's a bad sign for the Magic Marines because these have not aged particularly well. Perhaps the Magic Marines won't either, but for comfort, I quite like them. So those are all the traditional hikers I got to show you today, but I thought it worth including some other alternatives. So these are some Magic Marine strap-on hiking shorts. So say you don't want to have a full set of hikers, you just want to have something to wear over your dry suit in the winter or in the summer over your wetsuit. You just wrap these around here, that buckle goes in, and then these straps just strap around here. I found them okay. I wouldn't say they're anything amazing, but they're probably quite a cheap way of doing it, and they work quite well in the winter when you might want to be wearing a dry suit. So next up we've got the Magic Marine Pro Pads. These go under the wetsuit and do up like so. You can get these pretty tight, but I still found they slipped around and just weren't comfortable enough. Maybe I got ones which were too long for my legs. Some people seem to get on very well with them, but they just weren't for me. So after all that, you're probably wondering what I went for. I decided to stick with the gulls despite the big hole in the bottom. And to disguise that hole, I got myself some Rooster deck protector shorts, which seem expensive for a pair of shorts, but in the long run they're probably going to save you quite a bit of money on new hikers. Not only can they disguise a hole in this case, but they can, any future hikers I buy, they can hopefully prevent that hole from developing in the first place. So I like the Gulls because they've got the long pads, but if you're not too bothered about the pad length, then the Roosters are probably the best value, and the Sandilines are great if you've got the money to spend. So that concludes the video. If you found it helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing as well. And if you've got any questions, leave a comment for me below and I'll try to answer it. Until next time, happy sailing.
Yeah.